You pick the nominees, now you get to pick the winners. Or would that be losers of the Gabbies? What are the worst comic books of the decade? This is what we're voting for today. Same categories, it's just now it's all broken down. These are the ones that got the most votes, and these are the ones that we're going to see who actually is the worst comic book and comic book creators of 2010 to 2019. The first category was Worst Fall from Grace Comic Book Creator. This is somebody who used to be really good, but for some reason this decade, they just could not catch a break. And the nominees are Mark Waid, who not only went crazy this year, I mean, he might have always been crazy, but he gave us good books like The Flash, Kingdom Come, Justice League's Tower of Babel, and Justice League's Year One, but this decade, unfortunately, it's just been one trial of error after another. We got the champions. He lost his mind as he began writing Captain America as if Captain America was Mark Waid, and he managed, even though the man's a comic book encyclopedia, to make the history of the Marvel Universe boring. The next nominee is Tom King. In the same decade, we get The Vision. We get this awesome story about the Swamp Thing and his winter special. And if you talk about winter specials, there was a Christmas special from DC Rebirth that had one of the best Hanukkah stories involving two soldiers in World War II. And then Mr. Miracle happened, and I heard everybody praise the first half and then shoot down the second half. The War of Riddles impressed, but already I was saying that Batman's a hit and miss. He's not always that good. And then tragedy struck in the form of a non-wedding, and from there Tom King could not recover. And he just seemed to do more and more damage every time he picked up a pen. The next nominee is Greg Rucka. He continued his lesbian fetishism with an okay book called Stumptown. In all honesty, he didn't do horribly with The Punisher, to tell you the truth. But the man seemed lost on Wonder Woman. It was an incredibly schizophrenic book. Up, down, but when he hit Lois Lane, the politics comes pouring out, the Trump derangement syndrome came out, and you're wondering who's doing the talking here, Lois Lane or Greg Rucka. And finally, we have Frank Miller. Look, we know why he was great. Daredevil, you had The Dark Knight, he took a trip to Sin City, but a lot of people think maybe this wasn't the right nomination for him because he started going bad 20 years ago. Frankly, with stuff like Xerxes, I am not a big fan of any of the Dark Knights that have been coming out recently, and Holy Terror is an embarrassment to somebody of Frank's caliber, and to end the year or decade with Superman Year One is just tragic. The next category is Worst Fall from Grace Comic Character. These are comic characters that, hey, we love to see, but now it's just, what are you doing with them? The poor writing, the poor handling, it just doesn't seem like it's the character we love anymore. And the nominees are... Say what you will about the original Harley Quinn and her relationship with the Joker and the fact that it was an abusive relationship, and I understand them wanting to get her out of it, but once they did, she became one note. She's the crazy polyamorous slut, and that's the only way she's ever played. There's no depth anymore. There's no layers to the character. She is lost. And that's why we get this crap when it comes to making a movie about her. Carol Danvers, and mind you, that's Carol Danvers, not just Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel could have been a great character, but unfortunately, they wanted to put her up there as the greatest thing in Marvel Comics, and they didn't want to wait for the reader to make the decision, so series after series, even though we kept rejecting her as what they were trying to sell her as, they kept forcing it down our throats. No, this is what she is. And we were like, wait a second, she was fine as Ms. Marvel. Why don't you just put her back to that, and we're going to buy the book like we did into the 2000s? What's it been? 6 series in 2010 to 2019 to tell us how great she is. The surprising thing about the nomination for Superman is that he could have easily been in the best if you counted the Tomasi run. And this is why he's had such a bad fall. Tomasi was writing a great character that was a great family man, and then comes along Brian Michael Bendis, and he just took it all away. He took everything you love about Superman and just crushed it, and he continues to do so. in order to make the Brian Michael Bendis verse out of whatever DC's going to let him do. And unfortunately, Superman and Jonathan Kent seems to be his worst and first victim. No two words made a comic book character fall faster. The next nomination is Captain America. The Secret Empire that was supposed to actually make us A-OK with the fact that from now on, Sam Wilson was going to be Captain America. But people are like, wait a second, no, we want the return of the character we love, and therefore they gave it to Mark Waid, and he just drove it off the rails. Captain America is not recovered because after that it was Ta-Nehisi Coates, a man who does not like America. Therefore, Captain America must not like America. And we have not seen a true Steve Rogers Captain America since he got shot in the head. Captain America truly died after Civil War. Wally West, the Kid Flash. He's been being messed over for a long time now. But we were given hope when they brought him back for Rebirth, only to have it completely stripped away from us when they did Heroes in Crisis. And now we're just hoping, come on, bring back the character we love and let him shine the way he used to be. In some people's eyes, Wally West was the Flash. For 20 years, he was the Flash. This one's easy to explain. We like him, but we don't want to see him in everything. My gosh, just back off a little bit. The nominees for most overused characters of the decade are cartoons, movies, comic books, up the wazoo. It's time to let Harley Quinn rest a little bit. We get it, Marvel Comics. You think Captain Marvel's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're not buying it. She's okay at best, and she hasn't been her best in a long time. The Batman Who Laughs was pretty darn cool in Dark Knight's Metal, but does he really have to be the main villain in every gosh darn story? Back it away a little bit. Give us a little bit of mystery around the character. It's sad when DC really only has Batman who's selling, and then Tom King makes it so Batman's not selling, yet still DC tries to put him in every book they can. As far as Deadpool for Marvel, I could say the same speech as I said for Batman, except I don't know if he's selling all that well, to tell you the truth. Next up, we have the worst event comic. Now, this is the big crossover that has a whole bunch of different comics in it. It's not just down to one character or one character's family. This is a whole company-wide crossover we're talking about this time. And the nominees are Secret Empire. Yeah, Nick Spencer thought it was cool to turn Captain America into a Nazi, and the rest of us thought, pass. Civil War 2, where for some reason they went ape crap over a precog, even though there's precogs in the Marvel Universe. This series did not make sense except to make Captain Marvel the villain, which really she should be. What I think it was all about was taking Tony off the table so they could once and for all say, no, we were right. Captain Marvel's the #1 hero of the Marvel Universe. Event Leviathan. So every spy organization ever is being wiped out by the real spy organization. This series both snoozed and loosed. Dark Knight's Metal. Hearing people talk about Dark Knight's Metal is like listening to a balloon deflate slowly. Oh yeah, the first issue was great. Oh man, did you read this? It was pretty cool. Oh my gosh, I read that next chapter. That was all right. I couldn't believe the middle of all of this is not bad. And yeah, the ending was there. Avengers versus the X-Men. I read this. Even though I was like, okay, I'm done with comics. I heard the Avengers versus the X-Men. Okay, let me check this out. They've all got the Phoenix Force. The freaking heck is this? Obviously, some of you guys felt the same way I did, that this was one gigantic mess that seemed to only have one purpose, and that is to destroy the reputation of some well-loved characters. Next up, we have Worst Storyline. Now, this could be in one title. This could be in one family, like an event, but it's only Batman titles or only Spider-Man titles. And the nominees are Batman, City of Bane. So, Thomas Wayne wants Bruce Wayne to not be Batman. So, instead of saying, hi, son, I'm here. I'm going to take over for you. Just relax. He decides to break up Catwoman and him, get Bane in, take over Gotham City, kill the Butler. It's a freaking ridiculous story. Superior Spider-Man. So this is one I never read. I did read the next volume that came out last year, but haven't read this original that everybody was talking about and that got voted on. And the only thing I could see that I could say anything about is, once again, we're destroying a villain in order to get a copycat superhero. Batman: The Wedding. This was a long one. This was a long storyline, and it culminated in Catwoman leaving, and people felt really, really betrayed. That's it. That's why it was nominated. Superman: The Unity Saga. Is this still going? It feels like this storyline is still going. That, I am sure, is one of the reasons why this got nominated. This is the story that never ended, just on and on and on. We get it. He destroyed Krypton, which, why couldn't it just be, okay, the scientists were ignoring it and the religions made them not, and they were arrogant, blah, blah, blah. What a stupid way to start a series. Not a lot of Superman love, because the next nominee is Superman: The Man of Steel, the one that started all of this, where a usually bright, under the Tomasi pen, a bright family said, "No, our teenage son, why don't you go off into space by yourself with the crazy grandfather we don't really know, except for he was my villain not too long ago." I would almost say this was nominated for as good as the Superman story was before this came about, than as bad as it was afterwards. Worst comic book based movie of the decade. And the nominees are Fant Four Stick, The Suicide Squad, Captain Marvel, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Next up are the nominees for Worst One-Issue Story or Graphic Novel. Pervert by Michelle Perez. This daring, groundbreaking comic book ended up being one of the most lifeless and boring. There were no chances taken in this groundbreaking comic book. Batman issue number 50. It's just not a good idea to lead your audience on, only to betray them in the end. Deathbringer. Now, you're not going to find a lot of politics, but what you will find are bad writing and poor character representation. On the other hand, Lois Lane number 1 is going to be filled with just politics. It's Greg Rucka complaining about Trump for 22 pages. Dazzler by Max Visaggio, and Max Visaggio has one story to tell, and that's all about finding your own true identity, and that is just all this is, where it's really mutants versus Inhumans. Next up, Worst New Miniseries of the Decade, and the nominees are Black by Kwanzaa what's-his-name. This is the one where all the black people have superpowers, white people don't, yet for some reason black people are still being treated bad. How'd that work out? Female Furies is all about toxic masculinity on Apocalypse and how they have baking contests and bikini contests. I'm not kidding. That actually happens in this book and on this page. Old Lady Harley. Guess what'll be funny? You know all those Old Man Logan, Old Man Hawkeye comic books? Why don't we make an Old Lady Harley and parody them? That'd be great, wouldn't it? Nope. Heroes in Crisis. DC Comics said, you know what? We have not abused Wally West enough. Why don't we completely ruin him? And in the meantime, we'll let Tom King work out his therapy. At least we got a good drawing of Batgirl for once. The Batman Who Laughs. Nothing more exciting than trying to watch our Batman fight becoming the Batman Who Laughs of our universe. This was Worst New Ongoing Series. Of course, sometimes they're supposed to be ongoing, and then the publisher says, you know what, this sucks, it's a miniseries. But we know the truth, and here are the nominees. Squirrel Girl by Erica Henderson, and whoever writes it. Seriously, Erica Henderson does such a bad job on the art, you forget who writes it. Hey, remember when Zoe Quinn was going to revitalize the Vertigo series, and instead they killed it? Yeah, goddess mode, ladies and gentlemen. Batman Rebirth. Now, Tom King has been hit and miss from the very beginning, and I gotta say, after the wedding, it's been off the rails. He's never been able to recuperate it. Maybe Jokes and Riddles. America, written by national treasure Gabby Rivera. This is the book that has the term holy menstruation as we watch America just destroy the Marvel Universe. Superman 2018 by Brian Michael Bendis. Coming off of Tomasi's excellent run, it would be hard for anybody to make us care about Superman as much as we did. But unfortunately, Bendis said, screw that, I'm going in the other direction. Worst comic book publisher of the decade. I wondered about this one, if I should hold on to this, but I figured, okay, well, let's see. There's got to be more publishers that people are going to nominate just other than Marvel and DC, right? And yes, I was right. Here are the nominees. Marvel Comics, for such gems as The Wasp. Not only that, but they did produce America Chavez. Got to give them credit for that one. Moon Girl and the Devil Dinosaur was awesome, but Mockingbird and her feminist agenda, come on. DC Comics with their classic New 52 line, ruining Batgirl. Okay, yeah, we want the Oracle back, by the way. And don't forget this Lobo, or how about the mansplaining, Wonder Woman, or the bikini contest on Apocalypse. Next nominee is Devil's Due Publishing, and they are known for this comic, right? Actually, no, they're known for this comic book and its sequel. And you know what? Both of them really, really suck. And the final nominee is H1 Humanoid Studio, who made the comic book Ignited, which if you watch Just Some Guy's review of this, you find out that it is a book that really makes the terrorists the heroes. And finally, we have Black Mask. I'm waiting for these guys to have a breakout hit, because so far, so not very good. My goodness gracious, I've read Grave Chances. It was not fun at all. For the category of Worst Artist, I'm just going to introduce the artist and then shut up so you can take in the art. And the nominees are Joe Quinones, Erica Henderson, Riley Rosmo, Mikkel Fife, and Ramon Villalobos. Next category is the worst writers of the decade, and the nominees are Gabby Rivera for bringing us such gems as America. And don't forget BB Free, the new book from Gabby Rivera. Mags Visaggio, who brought us these comics. You have It's Kim and Kim, and of course the Dazzler one-shot. Tom King, who wants to bring down the character of the Batman, specifically by betraying Batman's readers with the wedding storyline. Brian Michael Bendis for trying to destroy Superman and not being content with that, and he's taking on the rest of the DC universe, including some he brought over from Jinx World. And Cecil Castellucci, not just for titles like Shade the Changing Woman and Plain Jane. We know we're really giving her the nomination for Female Furies. Next category is Worst Independent Comic Book of the Decade, and the nominees are Pervert, one trans story of sexual deviancy. Maneaters, what if women turned into man-killing animals every time they got their period, otherwise known as life. G.I. Joe Sierra Muerte. Really, I think this one was nominated for the art. Just look at the art. It's horrible. And Black. What was the story here? That black people would have no power even if they had power? It doesn't make sense, Kwanzaa. And Saga. Nominated because it started strong, but by the end, we were getting stories like Abortion Town. Worst comic book produced at Marvel Comics, and the nominees are America, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Captain Marvel 2016, and The Secret Empire Event. Here are the nominees for Worst DC Comic Book of the Decade. Superman 2018, Goddess Mode, Heroes in Crisis, Border Town, and Female Furies. And finally, the worst comic book, be it Marvel, DC, independent, one-shot, miniseries, graphic novel, whatever. This is absolutely the worst comic book of the decade. And the nominees are America from Marvel Comics, Squirrel Girl from Marvel Comics, Goddess Mode from DC's Vertigo line, Batman number 50 from DC Comics, the graphic novel Pervert. There you go, gang. Those are the nominees for the worst comic books of the decade, 2010 to 2019. Now, I'm going to leave the subjects and all of the choices in the description below. All you have to do is cut and paste into the comment section and just erase all the ones you don't choose. And the reason why I took a little more time and explained things is so everybody could make a decision. Even if you haven't particularly read it, maybe you're like, wow, you're right, that one looks bad, or that guy's art was horrible, or that one. So go on ahead and there you go, and we'll have the show. I'm going to announce the show as quickly as possible, but I'm very much looking forward to who you guys have voted for. So don't forget to do that. The categories, everything's in the description below. Also, click like, share, subscribe. You know the drill there. Ring that notification bell. Make sure your notifications are on. And thank you very, very much for watching.